Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's Proobz here, and I'm just making my final stream. My final stream of Valheim. My final video of Valheim, I guess I should say. And while it's not necessarily goodbye, it's certainly going to be a little break that I'm going to be taking from the game. So last night, we finally beat the final boss, Yagluth, and I finally finished my build, as you can see here. My beautiful dockhouse, which I'm very happy with how it turned out. And I'm sort of at a loss now. There's not really much else to do in the game. I feel like I've accomplished kind of everything I set out to accomplish. We beat all of the bosses. We saw all the progression. We got all of the gear. We got all of the weapons. Really, the only thing I think we did not do is find the vendor, which is unfortunate. But I was able to build this big, great dockhouse, which I'm really happy with. And so it seems like just a natural sunsetting of our time with this game, and we sort of all agreed that we were going to stop. We were going to let it lapse. We were going to let our server lapse and come back in a few months, and see where things are at with Hearth and Home, which might add some cool building modifications, and then probably re-roll once we get some new content, so we can kind of just see it all and experience it all again. But the purpose of this entire video is just to kind of talk about, my experience with the game so far, and what I feel, how I feel this game stacks up to others kind of like it. And I am very impressed with this game. I was really impressed with it being an EA and just how relatively smooth the rollout was, how kind of unique the game is, where when you get really close, you can see it is pixelated. It has almost this like Minecraft like appearance, but as you start to zoom out, the rendering is high quality, and it's really beautiful. They did an amazing job of setting up this kind of gorgeous environment with many different features of that we would get in kind of our real life. It storms, there's big heavy storms, there's sunny days, there's fog, there's wind, there's all kinds of stuff. And when you add in the different kind of biomes, it really makes a very interesting dynamic world to be able to live in. And I've really enjoyed my gameplay with it so far, and so let's just kind of take a look here. So this is my dockhouse I just finished. My inspiration was from a video I saw online. They didn't really lay out any, detailed instructions or anything like that, but I did take a lot of my inspiration from that dockhouse, and I learned a lot from building this too, just especially with the roof and getting it so high up. So I really wanted to give the whole thing kind of an inn-like feel to it, which I think I've accomplished here. I have this big, great fireplace. I have a lot of tables set up with food and tankards. I didn't do too much back there, but maybe with Hearth and Home I'll come back and see if I can finish that up. And out here, the actual dock. This is my dock house. I usually have a couple of boats parked here. Right now they're down at our other base, but I really could have kept going with this thing and kind of building it out around the side of the building a little more, but I really love it. I think it came out really well. I love kind of the oceanside feel, and like I said, really just happy with it. So let's go upstairs. This was the hardest part, was getting the upstairs area with the supports, but I used 4 iron beams. Technically, I think it's probably closer to 8 iron beams because I needed to get them all the way up to this level. But you can see here I built like a kind of a cool bedroom. So let's talk a little more about the gameplay. Right. So you come into this game with nothing. It's a typical survival game. You build from nothing. You build from scratch. You build your base, you build your weapons, and then they also added this other element to the game of this progression. Very linear progression, where you beat one boss and it kind of gives you a breadcrumb quest to then beat the next boss. And in order to get that next boss, there's varying levels of exploration you have to do and discovery, which really adds lots of great elements to the game itself. I mean, It's a very enjoyable way to play the game, and it was smart to add it into this kind of survival element where, if you did not have that progression, really all you'd be doing is just sort of collecting resources and building, and and that's about it. So I think they really did a fantastic job with designing the progression system in the game. As far as the difficulty of those, I think some were easier than others, of course. The first boss is relatively easy to beat. It's kind of just a tank and spank. The second one is more challenging. It definitely took us longer. The Elder was a really fun kind of damage and health check, and you had to be smart and use your environment to your advantage to try to avoid some of his abilities. Bone Mass, again, having to explore the swamp and find him was probably our biggest challenge. By far the most difficult boss to locate, though, was Motor, the Drake boss. We had to do a lot of searching all over this world to try to figure out where he was, and we finally did find it. He was a pretty underwhelming boss, unfortunately, but but that's fine. I think he could definitely use some tuning to make him more difficult. And finally, Yagluth, definitely the most difficult boss to find his components and spawn as well. The plains are no joke, and basically you have to get these falling totems that are in big groups of fallings, and big groups of fallings are not easy. So you really got to go in there with some of the best food, which you'll see. I have the blood pudding, the fish wraps, and the serpent stew. I was rocking some lox meat pie as well, but I kind of ran out of lox meat. With that, you're getting up into the 250 health range, and with all this, all this black metal armor and padded gear, you can take damage pretty well. So once you have that kind of gear and that kind of food, you do feel very powerful compared to your, basic troll hide, or even when you get iron, iron gear. It's the combo of the armor and the food that really, increases your player strength. But yeah, Yagluth was tough. Getting the totems, was definitely a challenge. You had to go into these big groups where there's often, many different fallings to defeat, which is not an easy task, but we were able to do it, and I think the balance there for that boss was definitely right on. Most of the fights were definitely a combo of ranged and melee attack. You can certainly melee attack. I find that you get a lot more damage in with melee attacks, but a lot of these bosses have abilities that punish, close range attacking. So you have to be able to, quickly retreat when that's coming down, or risk dying. I know I certainly died once with Yagluth because I got a little too cocky and was just kind of, really spending a lot of time kind of plowing damage into him from melee range when I should have been more careful. But you know what, that's on me. So yeah, the bosses and the progression system with the bosses was excellent. I thought they did a really good job. I think some bosses, as I mentioned, could have been a little more difficult, but I think overall they did a really great job. And when you keep in mind that this is still an early access game and they could still do tons of tweaking, I mean, they just they get an A+ for me in that respect. That's really great. I think the combat is also some of the best combat I've seen in a game like this. Bow and arrow, really great and accurate. There's a little bit of drop off, which I think is, you get better with over time, which is was great. You want that. You don't want super accurate bow shots, but you also don't want something that's completely unusable. The bow can be very accurate, and especially when you learn the drop off and the nuances of using it, it becomes a very powerful tool. And same with the weapons. You can get so many different weapons which all have different abilities, and you can synergize really well. Not to mention synergizing your boss abilities. So you get those different boss abilities. You can use them. You can use them to basically keep a perma buff going if you have 4 people, or you can synergize. So if you want to get Ichthyr and Bone Mass going, and the Yagluth buff, you can do all of that together. So I think the capability for teamwork and synergy and really min-maxing is there, and it's a really fun way to play the game. If you've ever played any kind of RPGs, or MMOs. It's all about that synergy, and they encompass that here, and I thought that was a really great feature. As far as the just the building in the game, I think that's really the only thing I haven't covered yet. I thought the building was good. I think there's fairly limited options here, but even with the limited options available, you can do a lot. I mean, you can make buildings big, small, any kind of shape you want. You can mix them with stone. You can really do some really, really cool and interesting things. And I think that that was a smart decision on their part. They made it simple, but it can be very, very unique. And in that simplicity is a lot of beauty and creativity that comes out of that. So yeah, overall, I loved this game. I put well over 100 hours into it myself. We had a couple of part-time people here that play very casually, and then there's about 2 other people who I play with who were with me with the progression the whole time. So we kind of all agreed after we beat Yagluth that it seemed like a natural ending. There's not really much else to do in our world now. You did the big build, right? You beat the boss, the final boss. So what else is left? Not much really. So what do we do now? So I'm pushing pause on the game. That's kind of my plan right now. I'm gonna come back for Hearth and Home because I think they're gonna add some really cool building updates, which will allow some more customization. So I'd like to customize my dockhouse a little more. There's a lot of buildings and structures here. I hope we can kind of add to and augment in some way or another. But outside of that, I'm really looking forward to some new content as well, and I'll probably end up re-rolling instead of just continuing on for some new content, because I think a lot of the fun is starting over again. And this is one of those games where once you play it once, you learn so much, you glean so much information, you know what the biggest challenges are, and you know what the goals are, the most bang for your buck kind of time-wise to go for right away. One of the things that I feel like I would definitely skip is, not making bronze armor or weapons, just breezing through bronze and trying to get into the swamps as fast as possible, beating bone mass, and being able to kind of like get into the Iron Age. Alright guys, well, I hope you enjoyed my little tour of our world here and my journey through Valheim. I'm hoping to post some more videos once we get some more updates, but I think for now, this is it. And this definitely gets an A+ for me. I mean, this game was just so much fun. They packed so much content into this early access $20 game. The game's been out for about 6 weeks now. We put a solid 600 days into this, which I'd say 200 of that easily was just me trying to build my dockhouse. Just at building these kind of structures here. But it's a beautiful game. It's so enjoyable and restful to play. It's one of those games where you can just build and have a really fun, chill time, or you can, go out and be fighting in the swamps or fighting in the plains and really be in some kind of dangerous battle situations. So I think it kind of appeases all parties, and I really look forward to what they can do to kind of expand on the game and make it more expansive. But I will say, what they've done so far is incredibly impressive for an early access game. Alright guys, so that's it for me. Proobz, bittersweet final Valheim record here, and saying goodbye to this place that has been very much a comforting home for me, and some good memories made, honestly, within the past 6 weeks. So I'm it's a little bittersweet. I'm a little sad to see it go, but at the same time, it's good to be done for a while until there's some more content. It just seems like a really good time to be done with it instead of dragging this on and maybe doing some more builds or something like that. It just seems like a good natural time for this game to come to an end for me. So with all of that, I hope to see you all in game, and I really look forward to some future updates and to see like what these guys can bring to the table, because the bar I think has been set really, really high. They just passed 6 million sales for an early access game, which is just absolutely insane. So we'll see. All right, guys, with that, I'm gonna let you go. This has been Proobz. I hope you've enjoyed my video, and I look forward to getting back into this game again in the near future.